The story begins with an author named Osamu Dezai walking toward a river with a woman by his side. Upon reaching the river, Osamu deems it the perfect spot for their planned double suicide, and the woman agrees. They tie themselves together with a red string, believing this will ensure they remain together even in the afterlife. Just as they are about to jump into the river, a truck suddenly appears and hits them, teleporting Osamu to another world. Upon regaining his bearings, Osamu wonders if he has reached the afterlife, noting the Western-style surroundings. An elven priestess named Annette approaches him and explains that this is not the afterlife. She introduces herself as a guide for those who descend upon this world and tells him that he has been transported to a different world called Zauberberg, where he has been chosen to become a hero destined to bring light to this realm. Osamu is stunned by this turn of events, lamenting that he failed in his double suicide and ended up in a strange place instead. Annette observes that he seems to understand his situation, but he confesses that his life has been full of shame. As Annette tries to explain his mission, she notices that Osamu has poisoned himself and is near death. Quickly, she uses her skill called Purifying Light to detoxify him. Osamu, however, tells her she didn't need to save him and asks her to leave him alone. Annette insists that he is meant to be a hero and fulfill a great mission. Osamu dismisses her concerns, stating that he doesn't care about any mission and continues to casually consume poisonous pills, expressing his desire to find a place to die. Annette, bewildered, asks why he would want to die after being chosen by this world. Osamu retorts that he never asked to be chosen. Annette inquires if he encountered a truck, which Osamu confirms. Relieved, Annette explains that the truck he encountered was the Otherworld selection truck, responsible for bringing him to this world. She elaborates that the truck selects people leading unhappy lives in their old world and transports them to another world, offering them a fresh start. If the truck came for him, it indicates he was unhappy in his previous life. She congratulates him on being given this chance. This angers Osamu, who explains that the truck interrupted his double suicide, which he considered the happiest moment of his life. Annette is taken aback, and Osamu asserts that she has no right to decide what constitutes happiness for someone else. Annette, puzzled by his reaction, thinks that once Osamu sees his stats, he might change his mind. Annette explains that every human brought to this world is granted superhuman abilities. However, she soon notices that Osamu is exceptionally weak. His level is 1. He has only a single health point and no magic at all. His stats screen is colored red, indicating he is on the verge of death. She realizes he is still poisoned despite her detoxification efforts and suspects a system error, as no one should be this weak. She searches for any special skills he might possess, but finds nothing. This is the first time she has encountered such a weak otherworlder. Osamu then tries to leave the church, but Annette stops him, stating that he might have been brought to this world by mistake. She tells him that he doesn't have the ability to survive here, and Osamu, agreeing, mentions that he is branded a failure no matter which world he is in. Annette apologizes for the mistake and asks him to stay at the church for a while, as he is too weak to survive on his own. She warns that he will be killed the moment he steps outside, but Osamu tells her not to worry about him, as he is just looking for a suitable place to die. As he tries to leave, Annette reflects on how different he is from other heroes she has guided. She recalls her initial pride in guiding otherworlders, but over time, she became disillusioned, merely flattering arrogant and pretentious heroes. Osamu, however, is different. She tries to stop him again, suggesting that he at least choose a profession before leaving. Osamu insists he doesn't need to as he is a born author. He then leaves the church, and Annette feels that he is the man she has been waiting for her whole life. The scene shifts to Osamu standing at a checkpoint, unable to read a single word written there. He realizes he won't find a cafe around here. Suddenly, he hears a voice in his head informing him that he has discovered a landmark called the Great Plains of Estern, gaining 5 experience points. Osamu, suffering from migraines, asks the voice to stop speaking directly in his mind. The voice, however, announces that he has risen to level 2. Osamu, feeling overwhelmed, hears a girl screaming in the distance. He goes to investigate and finds a cat girl trapped by a monster called a death tree. The girl pleads for help, explaining she will be killed if he doesn't act. Osamu, noticing her oddly shaped ears, muses about the allure of dying women. The girl, desperate, asks if he has any weapons or spells, but Osamu is soon captured by the death tree as well. Hanging from the tree, the girl calls him useless. Osamu smiles, saying they don't have much longer to live, and the girl blames him for their predicament. She explains that death trees have a suction skill that steals life force, and they will both die in a few minutes. Osamu, excited by the prospect, asks if she feels the same. The girl, perplexed by his demeanor, tells him to not give up as he begins to feel weak. As the tree sucks the last of his life force, Osamu rides in pleasure, but he soon stops responding. The girl, fearing the worst, accepts this place as her grave. Suddenly, the death tree begins to rot, starting from the branch holding Osamu. In moments, the entire tree rots and breaks, releasing both of them. The girl, confused, realizes Osamu's poison must have killed the tree. The voice in Osamu's head announces that his poison dealt 300 points of damage to the death tree, raising him to level 3. The girl, impressed, asks if he poisoned himself on purpose, suspecting he pretended to be weak. Osamu lights a cigarette, explaining that every time he tries to die, something like this happens. He reveals that he has attempted suicide 5 times, but it has never gone as planned. The girl, not understanding his depression, is nonetheless grateful she survived and thanks him. She invites him to her place to properly thank him, asking his name while holding his hand. Osamu notices the red string on his hand and thinks about Sachin, the girl he tried to commit double suicide with. Ignoring the cat girl, he resolves to find Sachin, believing she must be in this world too since they were hit by the truck together. He declares that his new purpose is to find Sachin and attempt double suicide again. Meanwhile, back at the church, Annette prays to the gods, asking them to protect Osamu and let her meet him again someday. Osamu enters the church with Annette feeling relieved to see him again, but her curiosity is piqued by the presence of another girl with him. Osamu promptly explains that he has a question for her. He is searching for a woman named Sachin and asks if Annette knows where he might find her. Annette is taken aback by the fact that Osamu is now looking for yet another woman. The scene then transitions to Osamu and the cat girl standing in the plains outside the church. Osamu admits to himself that he has no idea where to find Sachin. The cat girl, trying to cheer him up, assures him that he will eventually find her. She suggests that since they have a long journey ahead, they should stop by the castle town of Wrath on their way to her place. As she attempts to lead Osamu by the hand, Annette intervenes, stopping her from holding his hand in public. The cat girl questions why Annette decided to join them in the first place. Embarrassed, Annette quietly gazes at Osamu, and the cat girl quickly deduces that Annette is in love with him. Annette, flustered, insists that her motives are not impure, and that she simply has a responsibility to protect this weak otherworlder. Surprised, the cat girl remarks that Osamu is an otherworlder, which, she believes, explains his strength. Annette is confused by this, as she knows Osamu is supposed to be weak, which is why she feels obligated to stay with him. The cat girl clarifies that Osamu killed a death tree with a single attack and saved her life. Annette feels devastated upon learning that Osamu and the cat girl have already formed such a close bond that he saved her life. She grows angry at the cat girl. At that moment, they both notice Osamu lying in a coffin. He tells them that he plans to sleep in it for a while and asks them to wake him up when they arrive at the city. He wishes Annette and Tama a good night. The cat girl tries to correct him, saying her name is not Tama. but Osamu is already asleep. Annette, feeling smug, takes satisfaction in the fact that Osamu only addressed her by the correct name. She then drags the sleeping Osamu towards the city, leading the cat girl to question whether Annette is truly a clergywoman. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a princess sits with a forlorn expression on her face.